Hi, I'm Wayne Allen Root for Personal Liberty. The New York Times recently published the home address of Police Officer Darren Wilson and his pregnant police officer wife. Once they were publicly ridiculed for this reckless action, the paper took down the story, but inexplicably left up the name of Darren Wilson's street address. Is the New York Times trying to incite murder? How could any respectable journalist publish the address of a police officer knowing there are thousands of violent criminals who'd like to kill him? Why would a newspaper purposely make Officer Wilson a marked man? If someone kills Officer Wilson or his pregnant police officer wife, or mistakenly kills an entire family living in the home next door, isn't the New York Times liable? Isn't this a billion-dollar lawsuit waiting to happen? Have liberals lost their collective minds and judgment? This time, they've gone too far. And it's time to teach our friends at the New York Times a lesson, because this type of reckless, dangerous behavior by the media cannot go unpunished. I think I have the answer. A three-pronged attack is necessary to ensure this never happens again. First, Officer Wilson and his new wife should announce a billion-dollar lawsuit against the New York Times. That's billion with a B. That will send a strong message. Don't wait for someone to get killed. That's murder. But in this case, the New York Times is inciting attempted murder. They need to be punished now before something very bad happens. Let all of the liberal media be put on notice. Hit them where it hurts, right in the wallet. If all goes well in court, Police Officer Wilson could wind up as the new publisher and owner of the old gray lady, as they call the New York Times. Second, we need laws in the states of New York and Missouri to prevent this terrible thing from ever happening again. In California, it's a crime for anyone to publicly print the home address of a police officer. But it's not a crime in New York or Missouri yet. This has to change before someone gets killed. If this horrible breach of ethics occurred on California soil, the two New York Times reporters would be perp-walked out of the newspaper building in handcuffs. Wouldn't that be a great sight? That should be happening right now in New York. Third, isn't what's good for the goose good for the gander? Isn't turnaround fair play, as they say? Suppose a team of angry police detectives decides to do a little research and they print the home address of the Times reporters and the entire executive team of the New York Times, like the publisher. What would the New York Times think about that? Some would say it's fair play for the hunters to become the hunted. Maybe it would do the staff of the New York Times some good to feel the same pain and fear as Police Officer Darren Wilson and his pregnant wife. Remember, a grand jury of Wilson's peers looked at all the evidence for months and decided Officer Wilson was an innocent man acting in self-defense. They were given 4 charges to contemplate. The grand jury could have chosen any one of them, including the lowest level of criminal charges. This jury of Ferguson citizens, 3 of them African American, knew if they chose no charges at all, they could wind up starting a riot that would burn down their own town. They knew they'd become marked men and women because of this controversy, yet they still chose no charges. It was that clear to them that Officer Wilson was an innocent man. They couldn't live with themselves if they charged an innocent man with murder just to satisfy the lynch mob waiting outside the courthouse. That's clear. Yet into this fray dropped the New York Times. Has the New York Times become judge, jury, and executioner? Is it the media's role to incite mob violence? The old gray lady has stepped over the line. Either the people running the New York Times are reckless, mentally unstable, or liberals have decided it's fair to incite lynch mobs to maim, murder, or burn down the home of innocent police officers involved in race-based shootings. Either way, the New York Times obviously needs a change of ownership. Officer Darren Wilson is now retired and looking for a new career. What great timing. My hope is that we're still a nation of laws, not mob violence, and if so, I'm rooting for a court of law to make Darren Wilson the new owner-publisher of the New York Times. Oh, and Darren, if you're looking for an executive editor for your new newspaper, you know where to find me. I'm Wayne Allen Root for Personal Liberty. See you next week. God bless America.